Hi there, and thank you for purchasing my Hero Truck files. This is a 3D print inspired off of the Optimus Prime figure, and is fully transformable. If you haven't purchased the files already, you can find the link down in the description below. To assemble this print, you will require some additional materials, 1mm diameter pins, and superglue, both of which you can find at your local hardware store. First off, I've got a few notes before we start printing. When you import the STLs, please make sure to run any auto repairs. Some parts are symmetrical, and will want to be mirrored in the slicer software. Those parts are labeled accordingly in the folders. The STLs are exported in the orientation I recommend for printing, which does mean that some of them will require support. And for any of the smaller pieces, I recommend using a brim. When printing, I recommend a 15% infill with a 0.1mm layer height. So, once you've got all of your pieces printed and ready, it's time to begin the assembly. First up, we're going to start off with the feet. For the foot, we're going to want to get his toe piece and his toe color panel. We'll put some super glue in the little hole there, and attach them together. While that's drying, we can grab his heel piece and insert his tail lights. These should be a snug fit and not require any glue. We'll now take our main foot piece, and for the heel, we're going to attach it via metal pins. And for the toe, we'll just slot it in from the bottom using the nub pin design. Now we're going to take one of our rear hubcap and tyres and attach them together. You can tell this is a rear one because it has a pinhole through the middle. Once you've inserted the pin, you should be able to slot it into the hole in the back of the foot. And that's your foot done. And make sure to do the exact same thing but mirrored on the opposite side. Now for the legs. The left and right leg have a minor difference, which I'll demonstrate later, but for now, we're assembling the left leg. We're going to assemble another one of those rear tyres and hubcaps together and put a pin through it. From there, we can attach it to the back of the leg. If you're finding that your wheels slide out too easily, add a little bit of super glue in the hole before you insert the pin. Now that that's assembled, we can take our hitch piece and slot it into that little gap at the front. We're going to secure it in place with another pin attached through a hole inside of the ankle joint. Make sure to do this before attaching your foot, as you'll lose access to it. Next up, we're going to take our gas can and we're going to insert it from the back, sliding and rotating it into place. This can be quite stiff on an initial print, and you may require to sand it. Now we can take our foot from earlier, line it up with the ankle hole, and pin it in place. We're going to move on up to his upper leg now, and we're going to want a front tyre and hubcap. This tyre has a mushroom peg on the back, and the hubcap has a different design to the others, namely no pinhole. We'll put some super glue in the tyre and insert the hubcap. From here, we should be able to just slide it into the slot on the main upper leg piece. Once that's in, we'll take our hip section and attach to the top. I recommend rotating it back and forth to get a nice and firm fit. Now we can take our knee joint, line it up with the pinhole on the bottom, and pin it in place. Next we want the actual hip joint, and again we're going to line it up with the pinhole and pin it in place. Going back to our lower leg, we're going to make sure that our gas tank is folded out the way so we have access to that knee hole, line the two pieces up, and believe it or not, we're pinning it in place. Once that's sorted, you can fold your gas tank back and over. And before we move on to the torso, let me just show you what's different with the right leg. The right leg's trailer hitch piece is a slider rather than a latch. Much like the other leg, you're going to want to insert it into the gap on the front and insert a pin through the bottom. This piece will then be able to push in and out of the way for transformation, locking it all together. Everything else with the leg assembly is the same. We're already on to part 3, the torso. You're going to want to take your mid-torso block and you're going to super glue the headlamp piece onto it. While that's drying, we'll take our front wheel well piece and pin it in place to that hinge. Then we can take our bumper side piece and sandwich that over the top, locking it all together. Now we can take that mid-torso block from earlier and pin it to the other side of the hinge. Make sure the white bumper piece is on the same direction as the white headlamp piece. Now we can fold that up and make sure we do the same on the opposite side. Now that we have two of them, we can take our main torso section and slide them into the mushroom holes. These pieces are a very tight fit at first, and I recommend some sanding if it's being too difficult, but once they're in, they should move around nice and freely. We're going to put that to one side now and get our chest grille and our mid-torso caps. These have a pinhole, but only on the inside. Make sure that your pins are inserted correctly and push them on either side of the grille. Before attaching it to the rest of the torso, I recommend getting a flathead screwdriver and making sure that the actual slot around the mushroom peg hole is actually squared off. Sometimes the plastic can warp when inserting the mid-torso piece. Now we're going to take some super glue again and sandwich it all together. Now that that's dry, we can move on to our upper torso piece. We're going to want to take his shoulder joint and slide it from the back. And now we can pin the shoulder joint in from the top. Next, we're going to take some super glue and pour it into that channel there and attach one of our side glass pieces. Make sure these are definitely dry because too much force will make them pop off during transformation later. Now we're going to take our front glass frame piece and we're going to do the same thing. Super glue in the channel and attach to the side. And again, make sure it's fully cured before moving on. Now for our front glass piece, you'll notice it has a slight slope. We want to make sure that the top of the slope is the thicker piece, and we should be able to just slot it in. And of course, make sure to do the same for the other side. Now we can take our upper torso sections from earlier, the front glass frame pieces, and pin them together. Once you've done that for both sides, it's time to get the neck block in. We're going to make sure there's pins inserted in both of the side torso pieces, and then sandwich the neck block in the middle. Once that's sandwiched, we should be able to shove it all on top of that mid-torso section. Make sure there's no excess support material in the way, otherwise you won't get a flush fit. With that attached, we can now make sure that our shoulder pieces are rotated outwards nice and correctly. Moving around to the back, we're going to attach his backpack. We're going to attach our backpack hinges to the main backpack piece with pins from the top and bottom. And then we'll take our final backpack piece and insert it onto the very end, completing the rounded detail section. Once again, pin it all together and do the same for the opposite side. Now we're going to temporarily transform it into its truck mode configuration by folding it all up. And from here, we'll line it up with the hinge on the back of the torso. Pin it in place, and I find with this section in particular, the pins can come loose a little, so I recommend a double super glue on the end of your pin before you insert it. Now we're going to open his chest plate, and we're going to insert his chamber section. This just needs some super glue on the back, and then it should just slot in nicely. We're going to put that off to one side while it's drying, and work on our Mayrix. The Mayrix consists of just the frame and the crystal should be able to just slot in from the back. Once they're attached, you'll find there's a round peg in the center of your chamber there, and we can just slot the Matrix on it. Depending on printer tolerances, you might need to do some sanding here and there to get it to be a snug fit, like here. Now we'll close up his chest, and we're going to make a start on the crotch. We want to make sure we've got our main crotch pieces, the front and back, and we're going to attach the front piece first. The front piece has much deeper grooves and has a firmer grip on the mushroom peg. We'll attach it to the torso, and then we can take our legs from earlier and insert them into those little slots on either side. Once they're nice and in place, we can put some super glue on the end of that tab of the back crotch plate and attach it all together. You might find that the waist rotation mushroom peg can be printed in a slight teardrop shape due to the recommended orientation. I recommend you sand this a little just so that you get nice and smooth posing. Now we're going to get his two crotch side plates, and we're going to insert his yellow color panels, securing it in place with a bit of super glue. Now we'll take his main central crotch piece and do the same thing. Once they're all dry, we can put some super glue into that channel on the main crotch plate. We can then line up the two side crotch plates with the ball joint socket and use the main crotch piece to sandwich it all together. From here, we're going to take his bottom crotch collar panel piece and line it up with the pinhole on the back. And, do you know what's going to happen next? Yeah, we're pinning it in place. Now we're going to take his two back hip sections and slide them into the sockets from either side. Make sure you insert it from the side to prevent stressing the plastic. Now we can take his back color block and just insert it into that hole in the back. From here, it's time to move on to the arms. We're going to take his shoulder and his shoulder hinge and pin them together. Then we'll take our super glue and insert it into the channel on the side. That way, we can firmly attach the smokestack. Now we're going to take our mid-arm side and insert that onto the mushroom peg. I have found this piece can be quite tight when fresh off the print bed. Once you got it on though, you can insert some super glue into the side and the hole there, and glue in the rest of the mid-arm section. Now we're going to take his forearm and his lower arm section. We'll line up the two together and insert a pin all the way through. Now, once we've lined up our upper arm with our forearm, we can pin the two together. Finally, we'll take one of whatever hands you've chosen to print, in my case the 5mm fists, and insert it into the ball joint socket on the side. These fists are designed to be interchangeable, which means that they're a bit of a tight fit at first, but they will get easier to put in and out over time. Make sure you've done the exact same thing but mirrored for the other arm, and we can now slot them into the shoulder mushroom pegs from earlier. We're nearly there now, it's time for the head! First up, we're going to get our faceplate and make sure there is no excess filament stuck in the eyes. From there, we'll take our eye color panel and insert it from the back. This can be quite fiddly to get in place due to how small it is, so just make sure it's lined up good enough. Once you have it in there, you can take your helmet and slot the faceplate in from the bottom. This makes sure the eyepiece is locked in place and can't fall out. And now finally, we're going to take our head and just pop it onto that ball joint at the top. And you're done! Well, not quite. He does come with a blaster. This is assembled from two parts, the main blaster piece, which I recommend printing upright for max detail, and his handle, which we want to print sideways for max strength. You'll notice that the handle has a slight curved piece, and that wants to go facing towards the back. So we'll just take some super glue, put it in that channel at the bottom, and attach the two together. And now we can just insert it into our hands from earlier, and you're finished! So there you have it, you've fully assembled your very own Hero Truck 3D print figure. But we're not done here yet. He transforms, remember? First up, we're going to take those gas tanks from the sides, rotate them, and slide them to the back. Once you've done that, we can slide his color crotch piece backwards. Make sure to squish in the toes and the heels, and then we can flip out that little trailer hitch piece on the left leg. Once that's out of the way, we can slide out the bigger trailer hitch piece on the right leg, rotate the legs inwards so the wheels are on the outside of the bot. Don't forget to fold up the butt flaps so they're out of the way, and then use that latch piece to connect the two legs together nice and securely. Now we can take our front wheels and we're going to push them until they go all the way up. moving from the mid-leg all the way up into the hip. Now we're going to fold up his backpack like we did earlier when assembling, and that'll give us the room to hinge it backwards. From here, we're going to fold in the head, and you might find that you have to rotate the arms on a slight diagonal to make sure that you have proper clearance. Once that's rotated all the way, we can plug the backpack back in, tabbing it all together. Now we're going to fold down those lower arm sections and fold in his wrists. Let's move his arms up and out the way for a second and get to work on the mid-torso. We're going to want to untab his chest grill, and we're going to want to spin his mid-torso blocks. This can be a little bit fiddly, what with the side wheel well piece being attached to it, but once you've got one, the other comes out much easier. Once they're out the way, you can align the chest plate grill up flat and flush, and then use the side torso blocks to tab it together. Now we're going to take those legs, and we're going to fold them all the way up until they tab into the back of his backpack there. Next, we'll take those side wheel well pieces with the bumper, and we're going to latch them in place. I recommend rotating the front crutch plate slightly to get the clearance. And now we're simply going to fold his arms all the way back, fold his arms inwards, and you're done! So, I hope you found this video useful and you're enjoying your files. If you have any further questions at all, feel free to message me on both Cults or via email at nectarmechanics@gmail.com. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the files, and happy printing!